Hey, everybody, and welcome to Pod Stallions. Before we actually begin the show, I wanted to quickly mention that our friend and co-host, Jason, has a new show on YouTube called Plastic Soul. And if you like what we do here, you should certainly check it out. Jason, you want to describe Plastic Soul?
Yeah, Plastic Soul is a bite-sized, each episode's kind of a bite-sized little chunk of pop culture stuff. It's on the Entertainment Earth YouTube channel, and it's a little show that I've been doing since about April or so. And each episode is between like 6 and 8 minutes long, and it's about another bit of pop culture or geekdom or stuff that I love, whether it's something current that I found on the shelves, like a Star Wars thing, or it's Monty Python, or it's Hitchhiker's Guide, or it's Gravity Falls, or Kenny Everett. I mean, so far I've put up, I think, maybe close to 40 of these episodes, and it runs the gamut. Like, it's all over the place. It's basically a little bite-sized version of the stuff that we talk about on the podcast, and all the minutia that's sort of floating around my head that I sort of want to share. And I'm either holding a product or a thing that I love, or this thing I've had since I was a kid or whatever. We dig you guys so much, and we know that you like the stuff we're doing in the podcast. And I say you guys, I don't know if there's 4 of you out there or thousands. We have an army. If we had to get an army going,
we have a legion.
We have a legion. We could attack a castle. I don't know how many people are out there because Brian doesn't let me into that. He doesn't let me look behind the curtain. So I have no idea.
You're overpaid at $25 a week.
I don't even know if this is ever getting broadcast. For all I know, Brian just takes these and throws them away, or just is making a library to blackmail me with.
I use a lot of bots to pretend that the show's out there.
Yeah, down the way. But, Brian does these great videos that are very toy-centric. The stuff I'm doing, I mean, I'm in them. You see my face, but you can always look away and just keep the sound on if you don't want to actually physically have to look at me. But it's the same kind of stuff. It's just all the stuff that we love, we're doing on different levels and stuff. And, it's all about, likes and views and subscriptions, etc. So I'm going to be a pest. And every time we do this, I'm just going to mention again, I'd love it if some of you, any of you, all of you could go and check out Plastic Soul on YouTube. Entertainment Earth YouTube channel. It's called Plastic Soul, the pop culture show for Entertainment Earth. And, Give it a view. I think you'd really enjoy it too. It's not just I'm not trying to sell a.
No, I mean if you like this podcast, you're gonna like Plastic Soul. So please consider hitting like and subscribe and sharing and telling your friends.
Exactly, and I'll keep saying it until I get annoying.
That's okay.
Thanks, everybody. And now on to our regularly scheduled program and our new topic. Take it away, Brian.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Pod Stallions. I am one half of Pod Stallions, and me am Brain, and him are the other half, Jason. How you doing, man?
Hi, everyone, and me am Jason, and am half Brain and some brawn.
Ooh,
what do you think of that?
I don't know what to think of that.
Improvised reply.
Before we get started on the episode, I thought we'd just chit chat because you and I have had exciting summers. In the form of doing cons. You spent a whirlwind time at San Diego Comic-Con, and for the first time in 3 years, and you were interviewing the stars. How did it go?
Yeah, it went really well. It was, I'm not going to lie, I was a little anxious about it beforehand, just because, but I'm like that with travel. And when I pulled my suitcase out, to load it up, there was a little tag on the suitcase like Amtrak, and I looked at it and I went, oh my god, the last time I used this suitcase was taking the Amtrak train down to Comic-Con in 2019.
Wow.
So just to tell you how isolated life has been. But just, the anxiety was just like, I just want to get there, I just want to get the pass, I just want to get in the building, I just want to get through, and then once you're kind of there,
I call that a weekday.
Yeah, exactly, but times 10. And then you just kind of get there, once that first, night just kind of started to kick off, it was, it felt like Comic-Con. It didn't, I don't know what I was expecting, but I thought it was going to be crazy. I thought for sure it was going to be super busy. Like, I didn't think it was going to be dead. But I don't think it really started to kind of feel more like Comic-Con until about Friday. So Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday really blew up. And you can see it in the footage up top, you know, with all the people down below and stuff in those interviews. You know, some people, you know, just weren't there, like DC. You know, Warner Brothers didn't have that huge amount of space they had. They weren't there, and people were kind of hedging bets and stuff. But for the most part, I think everybody was excited to be there. So it was strange, and in ways, it felt completely alien. And then, you know, at the same time, I'd be talking to somebody downstairs, you know, out on the floor, an EE employee, just talking about stuff or looking at the booth, and it feels like I just had this conversation like 6 months ago. Like it felt that normal kind of. But it was the first time in 3 years, and now there's the Plastic Soul pop culture show that's on the Entertainment Earth YouTube channel that I'm hosting and producing. And so that was a really cool component, so that ideally I would have liked to have gone down and kind of run around with a crew or you know, just a camera or whatever, and just got some random stuff or talked to some folks. But instead I kind of went around and grabbed people, you know, like Brian Flynn and at one point Randy Falk at NECA. I went to him. He's like, "Oh, I'd love to talk. Yeah, I'll come down. That'd be great." And then he left like 2 days later, and so that never happened. But you know, just kind of went around, knocked on doors, said hi to everybody, and started to generate some stuff while there. And then there was all the guests that were coming to the booth, and then we just had this great little studio spot up on the second floor with the step and repeat board, you know, behind us. And you know, this is gonna all sound egotistical, but like, it's not like I don't do research, you know. You know, you know, it's not like I'm not going to do research before if I don't know who a person is or whatever. But I don't need to be there with like a stack of note cards and, you know. So then you did, you know, because a lot of it's just kind of locked in.
And also, when you do that kind of stuff, the Chris Farley show was the greatest parody of that ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my thing with interviews, and you know, most of the interviews I've done of the, you know, X number of ones I've done over the years, I'm not on camera. So it's a very different bag to be on camera to do it. And I just kind of ignore that it's there. I'm used to certainly voiceover, and, you know, even this show, I'm not used to being on camera. And so there are times where I do get a little nervous and sort of nitpicky about how things look or how I look and stuff. So I kind of just put that off in a drawer. And so with someone like Matthew Modine, with the career that he's had, I knew I was going to go into that to cover Stranger Things, of course, because being in the zeitgeist more than ever for this season, but also the career. And so that was a great example where, you know, I had an idea of the directors I wanted to hit and some of the titles I wanted to throw at him. And it was supposed to be a 7-minute interview. And he sat there for like 25 minutes. And I felt like we could have been doing it all day. Like he just loved these questions. He loved talking about these things that, you know, like at one point I talk about a music video, a Roy Orbison music video that his buddy directed, that he's in, and a young actress named Winona Ryder was also in the music video. And then, you know, so many years later, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, and then the Queen Zelina and Cody Rhodes, and I don't know WWE, but I got a little bit of background on her. I had no background on him. It literally was like, "Oh, this guy's here too. Would you like to?" I'm like, "Sure." You know, got his name, stood there, and just riffed on the entire thing. And so I think what I'm getting at is I think that people kind of appreciate the improv of it. They appreciate when you know what you're talking about, and they appreciate that it's not the same old kind of questions. And I think you get some really good stuff that way. So all of those went really well. We just kind of managed to get all of them up. I think most of them are up now.
Yeah, it looks like you're getting to the end there.
Yeah. So that was great. And overall, you know, I think I told you about Thursday night's Shatner concert thing.
Yeah.
On a rooftop after he had a little VIP thing with some people that paid a lot of money, I think. Then he did a sort of a speech about this new record that's coming out, and he kind of riffed on Tambourine Man. And then he did this new song that nobody could record. I mean, I certainly didn't, out of respect. But, you know, it's Shatner. It's like you're going, we still live in this world with this guy. And
crazy, eh?
And he does this song that was like about, he was writing the lyrics to these new songs on this record, and this guy's accompanying him on piano. And it's something called Tree or Trees or something. And it's, it's that voice with the microphone, and he's reading the thing, and he's like, when I go, don't put me in the ground, don't put me in a box, no Shiva for me, don't put me in an urn, no cremate, like all these things. Just plant a tree instead. I don't need to be fussed over. Like, he's saying, like, don't go to trouble. Just plant a tree in my name. But it was all about mortality, because he was talking about the rocket ship experience and stuff. And I swear to God that, it was like you're all of a sudden getting choked up at this weird example of a song that he was doing. And just those moments of like, I'm standing here. This is Shatner's probably 800,000th convention to do anything to do with anything.
Yeah, it's got to be a blur to him now.
You know what I mean? And I got to see him do a little bit of Tambourine Man live, like 100 feet away from me. So that was amazing. And then there was a 40th anniversary Tron dance party that Disney put on Friday night that I went to, which was very cool. Didn't dance, but took a lot of ecstasy. No, it was great. And
Sark's ecstasy.
I happened to they had these photo things where you could stand in front of a background, a Tron background, and then there were little foam core props that you could hold and do these little pictures or videos or something. Somehow a foam core Tron disc, classic 82 Tron disc, made its way into my bag. Somebody must have put it there. I don't know. Oh, and it got out of there.
Like a frame up.
Saw Matt Berry and Kirsten Shaw right there in Old Town as we were going someplace else. And I was this close to just going, yeah, I think I want to go say hi, because he's going to remember me from Flash Gordon and from what we do in the Shadow season 2 party and everything. And I thought, just leave him alone. I'm just going to leave him alone. So I didn't, but it was kind of cool seeing him there. And then the Monster Party guys, they came by the booth. That was very cool. And they said,
I saw that video. Yeah.
They were like, listen, we're doing a hang, basically. Come to the hotel at this room or whatever. And went with a couple other people, and they're recording. I don't think I realized they were recording.
Oh, you were expecting like an Eyes Wide Shut experience.
Yes, very much so. At the very least, or 5 Easy Pieces, either one.
Yeah, that'd be good too.
But and they were recording. It's like, oh, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting in the chair, and we start recording. So I, and then this other guy showed up this guy who wrote the screenplay for The Crow, and he wrote these books about the Outer Limits, and he's a writer working for John Carpenter and stuff. And then we started riffing. It was great. It was just a really cool thing to do. So every bit of time was used up with something down there. Fantastic. So it was great. And yeah, I got some stuff and didn't think I would, but suddenly you turn around and there's 2 bags full of shit you got to bring back from San Diego. But it was good. Overall, it was good. It was nice to be back.
What'd you bring me?
Some great memories.
Oh,
some really, really great memories. I thought to myself, what do you get the guy that has everything? Like, I wouldn't even know what to get you. That you already either don't have, or just like, what's going to impress them. I did talk about Logan's Run on the podcast.
Oh, that's nice.
And I mentioned your name, actually.
Oh, because Loser Brian is really into that.
Because they were talking about Twilight Zone, and Larry was of course grilling me about, the 8-inch. Can you do those again? Can you do this? And of course, the Rod Serling thing came up again, and I very gently navigated why that's never going to happen.
But what's funny is somebody actually said to me, and I've been in this experience before. Well, Carol Serling's dead now, so maybe it can get through. And yes, that does sometimes work, except when, I'm assuming that his children now have control of it. And I very much doubt his children are going to go, well, Mom didn't want that, but we don't care. Like, I still don't think that's going to happen.
Well, again, I'm being very, very careful about what I say, but yeah, it's funny, when she was alive, her not wanting to do something with his likeness is what blossomed our license into having action figures and other categories and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Which I could have been a jerk and said, well, it's in the paperwork, we've got it, and we're doing it anyway, but out of respect and everything. Well, she's gone now, but there are 2 daughters, and there's much more to it regarding the politics within the 3 of them and that dynamic.
Oh,
that is heavy and sad, and
you don't need to get into that.
Yeah,
here.
it's just sad. I don't think it's ever going. Maybe one day it'll all of a sudden happen, but believe me, I have knocked on the doors, trying to get connected in different ways to try to make it happen, and it's just a virtual impossibility, I think.
Yeah, well, if it ever does get figured out, it'll be selling like crazy.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, they mentioned Logan's Run, so they always bring up Logan's Run, and I was talking about Buckaroo Banzai, and I was saying that my bet was if Reaction did Super 7 did Buckaroo Banzai figures, that they would do better than Logan's Run. That's nothing against Logan's Run.
It's cute. You're wrong.
No, but it's the 80s thing. It's like everything 80s they do, from Electric Boogaloo to whatever. It's like, I could see the packaging, the gem stuff, the gem figures that they did. People were going mental for those. So I could see them taking Buckaroo Banzai, which will never happen because it's too complicated. But that started the Logan's Run conversation. And then I said, well, I think that there were some figures that were going to be made for the TV show. Yeah, oh yeah, and they're like, for the TV show. And I said, in fact, I think Brian Heiler has has made some customs or something, or had the molds, or I don't know what I said.
I actually do own the prototypes.
Yeah, I said I think Brian's been selling those. I said Brian's been selling those on the black market now for 10, 11 years, and the studio hasn't got wind. No, I didn't say that. So I mentioned your name, even all those many thousands of miles away at Comic-Con, with all that I had to do. You were still in my thoughts.
Yeah, my ears were burning.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, how was your Cat Fancy convention that you went to?
The Cat Fancy convention was amazing. I was signing, of course.
What
I did was I hopped in the car very foolishly at the last minute and went to PowerCon, mainly to see my pal Steve, who runs Mego Meet with me. Mm-hmm. But also there was so much opportunity. Like, first time PowerCon had been in Columbus. The folks at Mego were there, and they wanted me on a panel.
Oh, you did a panel? I didn't know.
No,
that.
I didn't. I missed it. Steve went in my place, actually, which was a couple things didn't work out. Like Paul Clark, Dr. Mego, his flight got canceled.
Oh no!
Which actually worked out in his benefit, because he had a health scare like a day later, and so in a way it was really good. He wasn't in Ohio or on a plane to Ohio. But I got to meet some folks I've been friends with or friendly with for a long time, like Pixel Dan Erdley. Dan Larson from a lot of Dans. Dan Larson from
Toy Galaxy.
Toy Galaxy. Thank you. Yep. I got to meet Blake Wright, who's the author of the Toys That Time Forgot, I think it's called. And
I know that book.
And he's launching a new magazine called Toy Collector. I met him. I ran into, believe it or not, our old pal Mark Huckabone.
You saw Mark, so that was after.
He showed up a day late.
Okay, so you saw him after Comic-Con, though.
Yeah, I saw him at PowerCon. Yeah. And then it was a really great show. I actually Rich from Nacelle was there, my publisher, and I actually got to sign a copy of Knockoffs for a customer, which was just delightful. And
that's got to be a good feeling.
It was fantastic, and really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the experience. I went in fully expecting this is going to be all He-Man, but that's okay, and it was not. It was much better experience than that for me. I mean, I consider it a better experience. There was tons of He-Man, but there was a lot of dealers with, there was so much eye candy there, Jason. It was amazing. If you think of it, it was there. It's
like a con. It's like an excuse to put on a convention for one thing, but everyone that's got all kinds of stuff, you know, it's. I think
Well,
I went to
apparently
one,
at one time they were you couldn't sell other stuff at it.
I went to one maybe 4 years ago, maybe an LA one. I think it was PowerCon, and it was about, I'd say it was about 75% He-Man stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then there were other merch, but I don't know much about the convention. So yeah, we actually talked on
That's
your
right.
way
I
down.
phoned you during the worst reception ever. That's right. I forgot
That's
about
right.
that.
On your drive down, yeah.
Yeah, and no, I really enjoyed it. And
What'd you get me?
I got you this T-shirt.
Mm.
Yeah, and I hope you're an extra large.
I love it. Just send it when you're done with
it. It was a terrific experience. I did want to mention one thing. You mentioned this at the top, saying you hadn't checked your luggage in years, and I was at a motel on the way down there. A lot of people need to upgrade those summer clothes. I think I noticed some people wear like a trend of people wearing very like ill-fitting, odd summer clothes, and then I started to realize, oh yeah, it's been like 3 years since most people have had a vacation.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I mean, like, I just like, I kind of realized later, like, it's not that people are dressed weird, it's just these are definitely, like, they were all wearing what I would consider cabana clothes, like George Costanza's dad, but yeah, it was great to be in the States again, and had a lot of fun.
And you stayed, so when I talked to you, you were just getting there, and you stayed for what, a couple of days?
Yeah, I stayed for overnight in Columbus for the show, and then I did the show all Sunday, and then I booked it back, and I got to Erie, Pennsylvania, where I often stay, and just slept there that night. I watched a movie in my hotel room and passed out. But really terrific. What movie?
Yeah.
Run, Ronnie, Run.
The Mr. Show movie?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my God.
I had listened to Bob Odenkirk's biography on the way down, and pardon me, it talked extensively about the making of Run, Ronnie, Run, a movie I probably haven't seen in 20 years. So
I saw it on a bootleg.
Yeah, me too.
Somebody had well before it actually got released on DVD.
Yeah. And I watched it and I realized, it's still not very good. It and Brain Candy are like the two, great white hopes for me of sketch comedy movies, and both of them are just kind of, they're kind of there.
Now that you mentioned Brain Candy, and I know, did we ever do a Kids in the Hall episode? I think we did.
But did we?
I don't know. It seemed like it's one of those things that I think of and I go, there's no way we haven't done a Kids in the Hall episode. We should, but you and I haven't spoken about the new series, and I don't know if you've seen it, all of it. But am I the only person that thought the shots that were... Did you see the documentary?
No.
Oh, man. The documentary is incredible. It's a two-part.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on Amazon Prime.
Oh, I'm in.
It's 2 parts, and between obviously the jokes in the first episode, fine, joking about Brain Candy, but it was an insane production and lots of bad things happened. But the way it's talked about, it just gets no love, and it's like, I know it didn't do well, but I think if everybody loves Kids in the Hall, they love that movie.
There's some funny parts in it, and it's way better than Run, Ronnie, Run.
Oh,
but
it
still wasn't the best. It still wasn't the best.
No, but it's got, for a thing that blends some of the actual characters from the show.
Oh yeah,
with the narrative, and subject matter was a little ahead of its time.
What I thought was really funny was the theater I saw. When that came out, I lived downtown Toronto, and I'm pretty sure while I was watching it, they went by the theater I was in the movie. So I always kind of loved that,
Yeah. Yeah, I watched it not long ago, maybe 6 to 8 months ago, before the new show is going to come on, and Death Comes to Town too. I think Death Comes to Town is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
Never really gets talked about, but we should definitely do a Kids in the Hall episode. Because,
oh sure, yeah, we're kind of doing one now.
Yeah, well, you got to finish the new show, and then
yes, I do.
There's some great stuff in the new series.
I liked what I saw thus far, but I am like that. I just kind of drop things for a while. We should probably do our show.
We should. What's our subject matter?
It is your choice this week, and it's one that I sure as heck agree with, and that is to talk about Canada's own Martin Short.
Let me tell you something. I'm going to kick this off by saying, has anybody out there ever met someone that has said, "Oh, you know who I can't stand? Martin Short."
I'm sure they exist, but I don't want to know them.
I don't want to know them, but I don't think anybody in our circle or that digs the stuff, no one has ever said, there's nothing to hate. First of all, there's nothing. He's never been so ubiquitous that you just hate that one thing that he does. That's all he did for 40 years. I was driving around LA, and there are these billboards up for Only Murders, the Only Murders in the Building, or whatever it's called. On Hulu, which I am a couple episodes behind with the new series. But they're specific to him. They have all those for your consideration billboards that hit for movies and for TV shows and stuff. And I think he was nominated, or it's either for your consideration or it's X number of nominations, Emmy nominations, including, best actor or best supporting actor in a comedy series or something. And it's just him, his face kind of peeking out a corner. And as I drove past it, it just made me feel good. It just made me go, we're still living in this world that Martin Short is in, and he's still wonderful. And what a career he's had.
Oh, absolutely.
We should talk about him. And that's kind of the impetus of starting to talk about
him. This is one I actually know a lot about because, he's connected to, actually, first of all, I just want to point out, I, as a kid, gravitated to him immediately. I think I actually knew him from television very early on. And of course, SCTV was massive. And then I followed him through the 80s. If he was in it, I wanted to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never not been a fan. I still watch stuff with him in it. My wife likes him. And, sometimes my wife doesn't like people I find funny, but, he's in so much stuff.
I was trying to figure out, there was a show in the U.S. called I'm a Big Girl Now.
I was just going to talk about that. I liked that show.
Okay, that was a sitcom with Danny Thomas.
Danny Thomas and Diana Canova.
And I'm not going to go into any more material about Danny Thomas. I don't think this is the show for it. But I'm just going to say...
No, that's more of a Gilbert Gottfried.
He behaved himself throughout the show.
Yeah.
And is it Diana Canova was the lead?
I think that's her name.
And so Martin Short was in the cast, and I remember the opening credits with him doing a goofy thing or mugging or something. But I was trying to figure out, I think I would have seen him on SCTV before I saw this sitcom, but I can't pinpoint it. I can't remember because I think the sitcom had to be like 81.
But SCTV, he actually, after I'm a Big Girl Now, dried up, he did end up going to SCTV around 82, I think.
So the show, he would have been on I'm Big Girl Now before he got to SCTV.
Yeah, it was 1980. Okay. And I saw him in commercials and things like that when I was a kid, sometimes not knowing it was him until years later. But he has a really neat beginning. He comes from a very special cast of Godspell in Toronto with Gilda, Victor Garber, Eugene Levy, Dave Thomas, and Andrea Martin, and Paul Schaefer. So every single person in that group grew to be successful. And he did not go on SCTV right away. He went to the States. And then he tried to find his success with I'm a Big Girl Now, which I liked, but I'm glad that he kind of went to SCTV by 82. And I think that was when, I can never remember who left at that time, but he came at a really good point. Like either Rick Moranis had left, or
maybe it might have been Moranis.
Yeah, it was Moranis, Dave Thomas, and Catherine O'Hara left, leaving this huge, crater. And in walks Martin Short. And I can remember the first time I ever saw Martin Short on SCTV. It was a sunrise semester with Ed Grimley, and he's teaching you snake charming. And I was like, yeah, this guy's great.
It's okay. Back to just real quick though, just made me think of something. Back to I'm a big girl now. That is a prime example of certainly my childhood, and I'll bet a lot of people's, of we watched everything. Like there's no reason for me to have watched that sitcom.
I am shocked
that would interest me.
I
watched it because there was like I never would have sat down to watch the Waltons. I would have found something to do. But for the most part, if you're watching a sitcom that you dig, and then the next one you don't, or you don't really know, but in the next, half hour later is, I don't know, the Fall Guy, whatever the hell it might be.
Yeah, I was gonna say Fall Guy too.
You're gonna sit there and go, okay, I'll sit through this other half hour and watch the commercials to get to the show. But I watched just about every episode of that show.
Me too.
And I think it started to become for him. Like I knew he was funny and goofy in it.
Well, yeah, you weren't going for the little girl who was.
It wasn't the little girl, the mom and little girl drama, the divorced mom, whatever, and the Danny Thomas with his daughter thing. Like, why would I watch this show? Yeah. But we watched everything. We freaking watched everything.
I'm shocked though that thought I was going to say I'm a big girl now, and you go, what was that? So it surprises me. We latchkey children both watched that show.
Yeah. Saw everything. But in the SCTV thing, so in America, it was on like, I want to say Saturday nights.
I think it was Friday night. I think it was
Friday night.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was Friday night, but it was late. Like it was on. I think it was on like midnight in the Twin Cities or
12:30.
12:30. Okay, there you go. But I watched it as a kid, and I think about this like, I know people that have like 11-year-old kids or whatever. Like, would your kid be up on a Friday night at 12:30 at night watching a sketch show? And again, divorced parent. I'm on my own kind of doing my own thing. No one's around. But when I think of Letterman or these kind of things, like I stayed up late to watch these things as a kid. And SCTV was it was never, so offensive that a kid couldn't watch it, but it was definitely like, there's a lot of stuff that you necessarily wouldn't have gotten as a kid. And the Grimley and so wait a minute. So when were the McKenzie brothers? Because Strange Brew was 83, but when did they sort of blow up? Was it 80, 81?
It's about 81. Yeah.
Okay. So I watched them. Like I watched the show when they were on because I went out to see Strange Brew. So I must have been watching this from 1980 forward or whenever it was.
Yeah, I believe it came to the SCTV 90 came in 81, May of 81. So that's generally when America really got turned on to it. It was syndicated in the United States in little half an hours.
Mm-hmm.
But it never had the kind of, crazy popularity it did until the early 80s when it hit the United States. It was really hit or miss in Canada. Like they do, I think I was 6 when the show came on the air, and then the second season came on when, a couple years later, if I'm not mistaken. To what you're saying about how it sort of click. I don't know what the rest of the country was like. I just know that in Minnesota, there was something about Bob and Doug besides the funniness, but it was like they looked like a couple of guys in the winter in Minnesota, wearing parkas and toques and everything. Like that's how everybody looked, 5 months out of the year. And the accents weren't that far off. So it really connected. And then the local rock station just kept playing Take Off. That album came out in 82, was it? 82? Yeah. That became like a rock and roll station song. And so, were these little kids like primed for Strange Brew to come out? No one saw it.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
I think I saw it like 3 times in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because it had Ming the Merciless in it.
I actually bought the action figures the other day at a flea market too.
Oh, see, I had those at one time along with. I can't tell you how many times in the show, Plastic Soul, that I've said. Now, I used to have this thing.
Yeah.
Or back when I had that. So Ed Grimley is the big kind of breakout character on SCTV with him, but I think he started The Lawyer on that. Did he not start The
Nathan
Lawyer?
Thurm started on that. I think it got more popular on or Saturday Night Live, where it got better use in those Christopher Guest shorts that they would do. Yeah, Nathan Thurm's amazing, and I think of him a lot of the time when you see a politician avoiding questions and stuff, because it's just a brilliant character. I love Jackie Rogers Jr. It's so weird and complicated, and there's this weird backstory that makes and it's got such a universe and mythos to it. Like, that's one of the nice things about when SCTV had like a whole universe to it. It was like a Springfield of weird shit, and his characters just felt like they'd always been there. And
they were. You're right. They were very fully formed. He really was very assured in what he was doing. And he did Jerry, right? Did he do Jerry Lewis?
He did his Jerry, and of course he did that Ingmar Bergman's Scene from An Idiot's Marriage, starring Jerry Lewis. Yeah. You ever seen that sketch?
Yeah. See, that right there is a perfect example of the madness of SCTV.
Well, my favorite part of that is, she says, "My lawyer will contact you. His name is Sven Gunderson," and he goes, "Slangoiven." Yeah.
There was a clip that went around the other day on some Twitter account I follow or something, and it was the Rick Moranis as Michael McDonald, driving up to studios.
Such a long way to go.
Such a long way to go. But that was such a insane. I love that they would go to those places that I don't think SNL ever got as sharp when they would do stuff like that, or like the Play It Again Sam with Bob Hope and Woody Allen and all that stuff. They just were brilliant at that, and Short just fit right in. So Grimley, Ed Thurman, is it? What was the lawyer's name?
Nathan Thurman.
Those were original.
Thurm. Yeah.
So those were original. He did Jerry. He did Jackie Robbins Jr. Jackie Rogers Jr.
Jackie Rogers Jr.
Now, that's an original.
I love Irving Cohen too.
Which one was Irving Cohen?
Irving Cohen was this weird old songwriter that would come on like and he was old and he didn't give a fuck. And
when we did the song, he took every word and milked it, and he had the wet cigar and everything.
Yeah, he was usually used for like he just didn't. He had no filter anymore, and there's that that horrible. And this is what SCTV was amazing at, is cringe. They didn't mind bombing, to make a point. And you ever see that episode where William B. Williams leaves Sammy Maudlin and gets his own talk show? It's horrible. And Irving Cohen is the guest, and he's just being like, he's just being horrible to him, like, but he does that song, William B, whatever the hell you, and then he just basically says, you know what, you're not good at this, you should go back to Sammy. And it's so mean.
It was, but that I remember as a little kid, loving that show. But when the Sammy Maudlin bit would come on, that it would make me uncomfortable. I watched it, but I don't think even as a child you fully understand why you're cringing.
Yeah.
But it did that thing to you because you had enough perception at the bullshit, the show busy bullshitness of, Burt Reynolds coming on, Johnny Carson.
Well, did you ever know the story behind that?
About
where that came from?
The Sammy Maudlin show?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It's a parody. I've read every book on SCTV out there.
Okay.
It's a parody. I guess at one time in the 1970s, and I do not recall this, obviously, Sammy Davis Jr. had a talk show. And it was the fluffiest, terriblest thing ever, apparently. And I guess Joe Flaherty saw that and he just said, this is just disgusting. And so that's why it's called the Sammy Maudlin Show. And that's why he's got, like he's Sammy.
Oh, wow.
It's a Sammy Davis Jr. parody. I don't think, he's really trying, but it's that whole insincerity. I love you, man.
Just
what I mean?
The laughing, like the exaggerated laughter that would immediately turn into, but seriously, I want to say something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I got to say, and you're like, I'm a little kid going, oh my gosh, this is so hard to watch. But we didn't really know why. You didn't really understand why it was making you uncomfortable.
No, I agree with you. That one went over my head a lot as a kid. I knew I got some of it, but I didn't quite understand where they were going. Like, why are these people so loud and so insincere?
Stomping the floor like Sammy would laugh, and he'd just
he'd always have to slap.
Stomping the floor, and
apparently that was. And I think a lot of their greatest sketches came out of them having to live in the same hotel room, like when they were working and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because Schmengies came out of Eugene Levy and John Candy watching Polka Time in Edmonton. I think it was I think the show was actually out of Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. It was like this show that was syndicated out of the PBS of Minnesota, and
it sounds like something we had.
And they were killing themselves laughing at it, and they said that they were calling each other Schmengi before. And then I guess John Candy said, who's a Schmengi? That guy's a Schmengi. And that's where so like all that stuff. But apparently Joe Flaherty and a bunch of them were watching the Sammy Davis Jr. talk show. And it was, it's like the new guard taking a piss out of the old guard.
Right.
They're just mocking the insincerity and the ass kissing. And So
and
that was
sorry, but back to the Schmengi thing is an example of like, it's so big, and they could go from big and broad and ridiculous
to minuscule and weird,
to minuscule and weird and cringy, and that's what made them
the Schmengi's Christmas special makes me laugh because half of my family was an immigrant family when I was a kid, and you did do weird things
like leaving the shoe.
Yeah, no, it's exaggerated on that Schmengi's Christmas. No, he has to wear my shoes.
No, he has to wear my shoes.
That makes me laugh so hard because that is like what kids I knew thought I did at Christmas. So, like, I won't get into it, but there's some weird Germans do weird stuff at Christmas. I love it. It's childhood, but it just always kind of made me laugh when they did that episode and they went there. That is not a big laugh, but it's a big laugh for me. You know what I mean? Like that hits me that hits me at home. So I love that. Huge fan of that. But Short also had another character, and I cannot remember his name, but he was a businessman. Strapco presents the arts and stuff like that. He's a corrupt businessman, and the thing that always kills me about that one is it's very similar to the boss character that Dave Foley picks up later on Kids in the Hall. That Dan boss, that guy, almost the exact same character. And I've always kind of thought they were that may have been inspired by Short's character.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot think.
I don't think I remember this guy, who this is.
Yeah, there was a couple episodes with him. One where he's taking bribes, which is really funny because he clearly doctors the footage, and and then the other one is one where he runs he's an executive of a company called Scrapco or something, and he's running a show about the arts, artisans and their arts, sponsored by Scrapco. And you get the joke, like this is literally art meets commerce, right? And you have this suit who has three martini lunches, and he's on the golf course by 3 talking to artists. He has absolutely no clue how to speak to them or what they do, and he's constantly like horking, and he's just the worst. And I mean, it's absolutely hysterical, and it's also amazing parody for the time. It really is like a real scathing concept of the suits versus the artisans.
But when did he go to SNL? So he was there. He was
SCTV, I think, for
right?
2 years, not to the end. Oh, maybe he did stick around to the very end, because I get my times mixed up because I saw some of the later stuff. Yeah, I think he was in he may not have been in the very last season of Second City. But he wasn't, because it went to Showtime after it left NBC. And I believe he's in a lot of the Showtime episodes, but I don't think he's in all of them. So he may have left at some point.
Okay.
And he left because he also, I think, leaves during the days of the week. But he went to the last Lorne Michaels season of Saturday Night Live in '84, and it was like this pinch hitter season for the show. And I of course I love that season because it's amazing, because it's full of it's got Martin Short, Michael McKean, Christopher Guest. I think that's a Billy Crystal season, and a guy I really liked. Oh my God, help me out here.
Tony Rosado? Oh, is that
No, it wasn't Tony Rosado. He did not last very long.
Wait. Sorry. You're talking SNL.
Yeah.
Guest, Crystal, Short. Was Shearer on camera for that? Or was that previous?
That was Shearer. Yeah, Shearer was there, but I'm thinking of he's still big in England. I really like this Rich Hall.
Rich Hall.
Yeah.
That was when he was on?
Yeah. So I thought that was a gangbuster season, and that is my 9th grade experience, that season. And by this time I'm a massive, Short fan, and I thought it was great to see him bring his characters. I think he brought them all back for that season. I know Grimley appeared.
I always kind of wondered about that. You know what I mean? I always kind of wondered if, as far as, like SNL with Lorne Michaels and everything, it's like you create a character, even if you created it before the show, you bring it to the show and it's on air now. It's like you can't really do anything with it without Lorne Michaels being involved.
Yeah, well, because he's got to make a movie.
Right. The characters he created on SCTV, it's interesting that they weren't like intellectual property of,
It doesn't. Andrew Alexander, I don't think any of them were, because a lot of them returned. Especially Bob and Doug. Yeah. It's so that was 86. No, that wasn't 86. 84, 85.
84, 85. Was it one season?
It was one single glorious season. Nobody wore out their welcome, and although I gotta admit that whole "you look marvelous" thing.
Oh yeah. Well,
got really tiresome by the end of that year.
You know what's interesting? He came up the other day in a conversation with somebody, Billy Crystal, and this person I was talking to was just ranting about, Billy, I can't always stand again. But that he mentioned the Fernando Lamas thing, and I was like, I don't think I've ever heard anybody take him to task for doing Sammy on SNL.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I don't think I've ever heard somebody mention, oh, don't forget also, for going backwards, Billy Crystal did Sammy Davis Jr. on that show. And, it was, I always forget that. Like, oh, yeah, that was not that long ago. And I've never heard anybody sort of take him to task for it. I'm not saying they should, or I'm not saying either way, but everyone kind of forgot that he did this impression of Sammy Davis Jr. And I think Tina Turner as well.
I think
in the music video.
Christopher Guest and Billy Crystal once played old baseball players in a short film where
I remember that too. There's one, oh God, I remember that. God, so weird. I never would have thought of that again if you hadn't brought it up. I remember that.
That short films in that season were really interesting.
But there's one other little thing that is an offshoot of all of this that is a mini sort of SCTV reunion that happens after SNL.
Yeah.
That I happen to adore.
Me too.
Which is the Saturday morning cartoon, The Completely Mental Misadventures of Ed Grimley.
Yeah, it definitely was inspired by Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this was by no means a copy or a knockoff. It was its own thing, and it was really quite good.
Really good. He was. Yeah. First off, it's all their voices. It's him, Dave Thomas, Catherine O'Hara, I believe, is in it as well.
Jonathan Winters was on it.
Jonathan Winters was on it, and then
Joe
there was
Flaherty.
live action portions as well with Joe Flaherty.
That were funny as hell.
Doing Count Floyd on a kid's cartoon.
Yeah. I just remember the first one they showed. He's telling the kids a story, and it's animated, and then the kids are like, "This is Scooby-Doo." And you look at the animated drawings, and it's very clearly the cast of Scooby-Doo. And Count Floyd's, okay, I stole it, and it just, God, that is so SCTV.
That's such another great character that's so big and broad, but it's also perfect. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's completely ridiculous, and it's perfect at the same time. I'm
going to be setting up at Monster Bash in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this October, and the two guests are Joe Flaherty and Zandor Vorkov, who plays Dracula in Dracula versus Frankenstein, one of my favorites. I'm not the guy to do this, but whatever photo package, whatever, have dinner with, I'm in. I want it all.
You had me at Joe Flaherty. I don't think I know who the other guy is, but you got to do that.
Yeah. I got to make it rain in there. I need all the things. And,
but that was almost like a little mini SCTV kind of sketch show. I mean, it was about Ed Grimley.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're probably not going to enjoy it if you're the insane person that doesn't find Ed Grimley enjoyable. But
you're also wrong.
And you're also wrong. But it's Martin Short doing Ed Grimley in this cartoon, and it's just the voice and the silliness. And there were some other kind of prominent names involved with the writing and stuff too. And I always forget, but it was, like these, they got some really good talent to do this thing. And it was one of those kid shows. Remember it was around the time of the Ernest. Did you ever see any of the Ernest Saturday morning show?
No, I think I had to tape Ed Grimley because what was that, like 88? And I think I had to be in a kitchen on Saturday mornings by 6:30 because I was working in a restaurant. So I missed any cartoon I didn't tape. But Ed Grimley was one of those ones like, no, there's no way I don't think I've seen them all, but I had a tape of those back in high school.
Yeah, the Ernest show was, we're at a certain age now watching these things still, as teens or whatever, but you could tell when something was smarter than the average.
Oh, the Ernest show was clever?
The Ernest show was really clever. It was really smart and kind of subversive and weird. So you had Pee-wee's Playhouse and then the Ernest thing, and I think Ernest and Grimley were the same year, maybe the same. I think maybe they were each like one season, maybe.
Yeah, they were.
Warner Brothers put out, or what do they call it? Warner, is it like Warner Direct? What was it called when they burned the DVD for you?
Warner Archive?
I think they put it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put it out. So it's the only time I'd seen it in all those years. But it's great. And there's a doll, which I could never find. Because I think at that point I had the talking Pee-wee doll from Pee-wee's Playhouse. But there's an Ed Grimley one that I could never find, and I bet now it's worth a fortune. But it was a pull string doll with a plastic head and like plastic arms, and the belt up to his chest. But
I wish there was a Count Floyd as well.
But he does all that, and then he makes his way into movies with, I think the most prominent, certainly in that period, was Three Amigos with Steve Martin, Chevy Chase. Are you going to say you're a huge fan of Three Fugitives?
No, I've never seen Three Amigos.
Once again,
I know.
I have a list a mile long of the days and nights of
Molly
Brian
Dodd.
and the things that don't make sense. It's like a concept album. I don't know how.
I was thinking about that today, and I don't know. I don't know.
You could not have. I understand not catching it in the theater. I really
I
do.
was not. I was pumped to see
You were a busy man, but the fact that
it was
you
1986. No, I
the fact
wasn't.
that somehow you've gotten so busy in the last 30 odd years that you've never been able to see it, that's the part that I struggle with.
Yeah,
that's the part that
I have no excuse, and
you have no excuse.
I knew it bombed when it came out, but I actually heard it's quite good. And I like. I'm also a huge fan of Chevy Chase and a huge fan of Steve Martin. So none of this makes any sense whatsoever.
Right. So as long as we're in agreement that with everything you said, if this were a court case, there's no defense. That it doesn't make any sense. It makes total sense why you couldn't have caught it at the time for whatever reason.
Oh, it came and went.
But in the decades since, on any format that you haven't come across it, that you haven't found 90 minutes to put aside. But so he does that. It doesn't do well, but then he starts. I think the Three Fugitives movie might have been in the 80s. The one with him. It was
the next one he did also didn't do well, and I did see it in the theater. Thank you very little. Was Inner Space.
Did that do well? Was that a hit? Oh
no. It should have been. It's a good film.
It's another Joe Dante joint, if you will. I don't know if I saw it in the theater, but I know I saw it right when it came onto VHS. But I don't think I saw it in the theater. But Short's wonderful in it.
Yeah,
because of all the physical comedy and
what drives me nuts about that though is I saw it in the theater, loved it, probably rented it and watched it. Haven't thought of it since. I don't know why. I've never revisited it.
It's listen, let's go back to Three Amigos, which you can't really discuss, obviously, but it's odd that I remember when it got to like let's see, 86 to 99, maybe it was the 20th anniversary. So 2006, 2007, something like that, whenever it came out, 87 it came out maybe?
Yeah.
And I think Empire magazine did a tribute and, did I think a photo shoot maybe with the three of them and interviewed Landis, all three of them, and Randy Newman, who did the songs and played the voice of you can't even tell you what he played the voice of because you haven't seen it. But something started to happen about that time where people started digging it up as this forgotten gem. Now, there are parts of it that are very funny, but it's never one of those things that I think I maybe I've seen it once since the theater, and it's got really funny stuff in it. But I'm a little puzzled by why it's so beloved, but it has taken on another life. It could just be that it's the pairing of those three, and it's now you've got them. He and Steve Martin together again.
Oh yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, that
which
makes
is
more
great.
sense.
And then they did the stage show and everything. Well, we'll get to that. But okay, so he does Inner Space, which doesn't do well. What does he do after
Cross My Heart, which is a film that I have not seen, but I considered seeing as a teenager for two reasons. One, I like Martin Short. One, Annette O'Toole.
So it was a kind of a standard romance.
It was a romantic comedy. Yeah, I don't think it did all that well. It was a Lawrence Kasdan film.
Oh, I love Kasdan. I don't know if you've seen it yet or if you ever care, but the Disney Plus Light and Magic series, 6-part Light and Magic series about the early days of Industrial Light and Magic up to up to a certain point. But Lawrence Kasdan directed it and did all the interviews. I had no idea it was even happening, and I plowed through it. But love Lawrence Kasdan. He is the unsung hero of the Star Wars franchise, and obviously a brilliant writer.
Yeah.
Maybe I did see that then because of him. I mean, I would have rented it, but I certainly wouldn't have gone to the theater.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah, I didn't even do that. But I do. I think that's the poster I fell in love with Annette O'Toole with. She's very pretty. And then there's Three Fugitives with him and Nick Nolte. I have not seen this.
I have seen this, and I think it's a remake of a French film.
Ah, yes,
which is called oui, Three Fugitives.
Trois fugitives, trois.
Three times. No, I think however you say it in France. It's a remake, and it's got some funny stuff in it. He's great.
Les Fugitives.
Les Fugitives. He's great in it. It's got some heartwarming stuff because of the kid. The kids, I forget if it's that one kid that was in. Oh no, maybe it was some. Oh, I know, it was a little girl that didn't talk. Because he was a widower, and the little girl stopped talking once the mother died or something. And I don't know if this other girl ever did anything again, but she was adorable. But you know, big gruff Nick Nolte kind of thing. It was just you just knew this thing wasn't going to make money, kind of. But it has some funny moments in it. But again, it would have been something I rented after the fact. So that's got to be what, 87
or 89. And
89?
then he also did a movie that I've seen a dozen times, and he steals the show in his scenes. Have you ever seen The Big Picture?
Yes, that's Christopher Guest.
Yeah,
Christopher directed film, a very underrated film about the industry.
Yeah,
Kevin Bacon, Christopher Guest directed it. Martin Short, John Cleese has a cameo in it. Who's the studio guy that is the guy that Kevin Bacon pitches the thing to, and he goes, yeah, but what if we did this? Who's the guy? Who's the other guy? Is it Michael McKean's in it.
Michael McKean.
Who's the studio guy? Is it like Kiefer Sutherland or someone like that?
I can't remember.
And
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's a great cast, and it's another scathing parody of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And Short's character, I think he's Kevin Bacon's agent, and he's full of shit, and he's the best. The scene, he's sitting at a restaurant and he's pretending that some of the actors are talking to him or waving at him, and they're not. And he said something. He says something while he's talking to Kevin Bacon. He goes, "Oh, I'm not talking to you." And it's just like, oh, this is so cringe.
It's very camp.
Yeah.
But he riffed on it. Maybe it was a TV spot or something. You remember it was him and someone else, like Christopher Guest, like they were a couple of agents or something, and they were very campy, and that's really ringing a bell. But now I'm remembering that because he's in like 2 or 3 scenes, but he just takes the camp up.
Yeah, you just reminded me of Christopher Guest and him do that wonderful male synchronized swimming.
Oh my God!
Short on SNL, and
I'm not a very strong swimmer.
Yeah, and they're trying to get male synchronized swimming into the Olympics, and Christopher Guest's character wears like a ton of rouge, and Martin Short's guy can't swim. It is,
okay.
It's so good.
Put pause on that for a second.
Okay.
Because I think we talked about this a while ago. I think it was you that I talked to about this. Do you remember when David Letterman would do those film festivals?
Yeah.
And he would get people like Michael Keaton and Michael J. Fox and, Harry Shearer or whoever to, it was like a summer special they would do like on a Saturday night. And they gave them a budget, and they went off and wrote and directed their own scripts, and then they'd show them on the special that Letterman would do. And there's one, I forget what year, but it's post Spinal Tap. But it's Harry Shearer, I think, with Christopher Guest, and they're doing a musical about nuclear weapons or something, or like some U.S. company that's got the best weapons or something, and they're turning it into a music, as if you'd go to like a trade show and have a musical thing, entertainment. And in this thing, it's I almost want to say Annette O'Toole, but it's not Annette O'Toole. No, I can't think of who the woman is, but it's Michael McKean, Christopher Guest, Harry Shearer, and maybe someone else. But Christopher Guest is doing that character, and it's the precursor, I think, to what's his name, Corky St. Clair. Is it Corky St. Clair from Waiting for Guffman?
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if it starts in this little, Letterman, the Christopher Guest film they did for the Letterman thing,
Yeah.
or if it was the SNL thing. But it's that same sort of, hey, no, don't, you're not, hey, you, I know you, you're not mad at him.
Oh,
Just
hey,
that-
you. Yeah, Corky St. Clair first appears. He is their trainer. It's Harry Shearer as the brother in the synchronized swimming one.
Yes, it's Harry
Christopher
Shearer,
Guest is
Short.
Corky teaching them how to dance. He's
Yes,
like, we're gonna do the mirror.
and you're not
Hey,
angry with
you.
him.
Yeah,
Hey, you, I know you.
yeah.
No, you're not. You're not angry.
Yeah.
You know, and between that and this Letterman short, you know, which I hadn't seen the Letterman thing since it aired, but I found that some of these on YouTube, and I was like, oh my god, that's Spinal Tap right there. That's, you know,
Yeah.
all of them are there, and it's also like riffing on what was to come with the Christopher Guest films, with the lineup that he had of people and what they were doing. It's a really cool little seed that you know. But I think the Corky thing came out of those characters, like that sort of, you know, just sort of you know, he's got a wife and kids, and he's just sort of talks, and everything is, you know, and I think it built from those characters that he would do.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see the genesis of this stuff.
And what was the song when they were doing? It was like, dun, dun, dun,
Oh yeah.
dun, dun,
Oh yeah. It was
dun,
like,
dun. What was the song?
I know exactly the song, but I can't think of it. Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's
very
very
very Frank Stallone.
Yes, yes. It's very Frank Stallone.
So then he was in a film called Pure Luck, where he is paired. I find that Martin Short went through this kind of journeyman period trying to find his way. Because Pure Luck is another remake of a French film.
Yes.
And it is him and Danny Glover.
Danny Glover.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like he also had that tricky thing, you know, like a Dan Aykroyd kind of. Bill Murray is Bill Murray. You know, you're kind of going to get Bill Murray a variation of in most of the stuff that he did. But Aykroyd did so many characters on SNL. And like Chevy Chase was always kind of Chevy Chase. And so then he became, he's a good looking guy too. Like then he thought he was going to be this matinee idol kind of thing after one season, which is the best thing that ever happened to John Belushi, was once Chevy Chase left. But some of these guys, like a Phil Hartman, we've talked about him too, where they're so good at the character stuff that you're not sure what to put them in. You know, are they going to be a character in a movie, or are they going to be them, you know, more straight but comedic? And so like the Inner Space thing served him well with all the slapstick and stuff. The Three Amigos, he's just kind of this gentle soul. But I think it's probably tough for him to find things that would really showcase his chops, you know, his talent.
I agree. And you know, even Candy struggled with that.
Yeah.
In Hollywood. Yeah. You know, he you know, I think his greatest film personally is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but or Only the Lonely, where you could see that he had range. But yeah, you know, he made a lot of junk.
Well, Short range, Short does come into it. It does start to happen in a couple of shows, mainly TV shows, where somebody's going, "Hey, let him do something different." But I think at that time with movies, it was just, is he going to be silly? Is he going to be like? It was hard to figure out what to sort of do with him. Yeah, and I've seen that movie, the Pure Luck movie. I didn't see it in the theater.
I've seen the trailer,
but I've seen it at some point,
and I didn't ever want to see it. I've also never seen Father of the Bride, but he steals the scene in that.
He steals. They brought him back for the sequel too. He's the funniest. He's the funniest thing in it, but sadly, that's not saying a lot.
I think this is funny how much of the actor's catalog I haven't seen because I don't want to, and I adore this guy.
You adore him, but up to a point.
Well, you know, I'm not going to shell out my $7 for anything. And then he did Captain Ron, which is another film that I have never seen.
I don't think I've ever seen it all the way through, but that's another one that you're like, really? Like Captain Ron, like he's a family man, wife and like teenage daughter, and I think a son. I think it's like that kind of lineup. And you know, Kurt Russell's this hunky idiot of a guy they hire and everything goes wrong. It's like, there was this slew of stuff in the late 80s and early 90s where you'd see these trailers and just go, was this just something that was sitting around? Were they obligated to make this? Who thought this was going to, I read it. I was flipping around the other day and I saw, in streaming, a movie that I've never seen, but I remember when it came out. And it's Dennis Quaid, Deborah Winger, and I think Arliss Howard. And it's called Wilder Napalm.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about two. And if you tell me that you've seen Wilder Napalm and you haven't seen Three Amigos, there's going to be a showdown, my friend, in the words of ELO. Wait a minute. Wilder Napalm, the description of the movie is something like, Dennis Quaid and so are brothers that are both in love with the same woman, but they also have a secret. Like they can start fires with their mind.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. You've seen Wilder Napalm, but you haven't seen Three Amigos.
That's correct.
I can't even understand what situation you'd find yourself in.
I'm pretty sure Wilder Napalm was I've stumbled home from the bar, but I don't feel like going to bed. I'm going to have a bottle of water. What's on television? This is good.
It better be.
Yeah.
That better be the only. That's literally the only. Or you were kidnapped some weekend and they Clockwork Orange your eyes open and tied you to a chair and made you watch Wilder Napalm. Are literally the only two excuses that you've seen that, but you haven't seen Three Amigos.
Why do I get the feeling that if you were the skipper and I was Gilligan, you'd be hitting me with your hat right?
I'd be doing that thing with my hands, like, what? What he'd do, his hands out front of him, like,
yeah,
putting his shoulders up. Get him here.
Just to get to an aside and make a tasteless joke, because this was funny. I was joking with my wife how we wanted to do the new bedroom. And I said, I just want 2 hammocks. Mine will be above yours. And she just kind of said, we're not doing the Gilligan's Island. And I said, Gilligan probably ate a lot of skipper farts over the course of those years.
And that's when you know you're with the right person.
That's right. That's right. She did not laugh.
When you can share
for that.
The gallows humor of farting in the bedroom. That's when you know.
Ta-da!
There's a keeper. What other podcast would go from Wilder Napalm to Skipper fart jokes?
On a show where
Martin
Short was in neither of those things.
My point of bringing up that particular film, Wilder Napalm, which you could have knocked me down with a feather, that I would have thought you even knew what this movie was, because I've never seen it and I've seen every movie ever made. It's the kind of thing that I read the description and went, what was it? What about this story was attracting people to it?
Who had an uncle that just wanted to lose money in a tax thing?
And who got attached first?
Yeah.
Did Deborah Winger get attached to it first? And then Quaid kind of went, oh, well, if Deborah's doing it, I'm in. Or, did Quaid get attached? And I haven't seen it. And maybe it's so mind-blowingly good that I'm going to eat my words one day. But
yeah, we're going to find out, because all the Wilder Napalm fans,
they're all going to come out of the woodwork.
They're going to be like, I think I've told you this before.
Dear Pod Stallions.
Yeah,
I've loved you guys for many years, but I can't believe you'd have the audacity to go after Wilder Napalm, especially having not seen it.
I've seen it. The years ago, my friend and I started a beer blog called Liquor Pig. And it was like this sort of, my friend had this certain writing style. He really enjoyed, it was all basically a writing exercise for him, because he wanted to write in this kind of Hunter S. Thompson-esque style,
Mm-hmm.
And so we would find the worst things we could find to drink, and then get discordant with I just remember one of his descriptions was we bought a beer from India, and he's like, I'd rather drink the water from the Ganges River while the bodies are floating in it than drink this again, and stuff like that. And what was funny though is there was a few beers we drank and they just spit it out, no good. And we still get comments, like, we haven't done anything on that blog in like 10 years. we still occasionally get comments like, "You two idiots don't know good beer." If you it's like, it's just our preference.
You're never, as I quoted you, I think, in an interview when I was talking about the Garbage Pail Kids movie, and I said, whatever movie, that's somebody's favorite movie.
Yeah. But it's like, but these people don't understand that, like, yeah, two of us drank it. It was repulsive to us. You like it. Good. Good for you. We didn't enjoy it. That doesn't mean we're dumb. That doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's
but
weirdest...
also in my defense, for all the Wilder Napalm fans out there that are going to come out and scratch my eyes out, it's not like we're not champions of things that the wider world, hate. We you know what I mean? We champion so many things that are our things, that are not mainstream. That if we're going to take a shot at Wilder Napalm, let's do a Wilder Napalm episode. Let's watch it in real time.
Yeah, let's do a commentary track.
And do a commentary track.
We'll sell it.
We'll do two.
We'll do one for three.
We'll do one for Three Amigos.
Yeah.
One for Wilder Napalm, and see if you can stay awake for the first one.
That'd be fun.
Actually,
the Three Amigos one would be fun because I've never seen.
I'm guessing the next big thing he does is Mars Attacks. Am I right?
Well, if you'd let because I have a list right here. Okay. I am cribbing. The next thing he does after is a movie that a couple of movies that I just want to talk about. One is We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, which was this voice cartoon thing. I was so sick of this commercial because I think in the summer of '93, I went to the movies a ton with friends because there was, I was working landscaping or some crap, and the only thing to do at night was go to the movies. And this ad played forever at my local theater, and they kept advertising it and it has the voice of Walter Cronkite. Like, kids give a shit about Walter Cronkite, and every week, when I think I always went to movies on like 250 Tuesdays or whatever, and I just remember that they kept bringing up Walter Cronkite, and it was
it's
bizarre.
So weird you bring this movie up.
Yeah,
for a number of reasons, but
no one else will.
Well, because I stumbled on some YouTube video, I forget who it was, but it was like so and so goes through their most iconic roles for GQ or something, and the camera's on whoever it is, and then they mention that The Big Lebowski, and then they talk about how it maybe it was the Jeff Bridges one that was recent, and then it linked to the next one, which was John Goodman, and he starts telling a story about some movie that whatever the offer was, but he starts whatever the next title is they're going to do. He starts by saying, I had just done some cartoon thing, I don't know, it's a Spielberg thing. It was about dinosaurs or something, and blah blah blah. And then he goes on to tell the story. And I sat there and thought, he doesn't even remember the name of he's worked so much. Can you imagine being that prolific and having that much money and whatever that it was a little dinosaur movie that you did a voice for that you don't even remember the name of, but it came from Spielberg.
Well, I get that. I mean, I've read articles about Danny Trejo watching a movie and going this movie's great. And then he sees himself in it and goes, oh, I did this. So, I think it's just when it's work.
That I understand.
Yeah.
The Danny Trejo thing, I totally understand.
I thought that was really funny.
But as soon as he said it, I was like, oh, I bet that's the one. It's called We're Back.
Yeah.
Dinosaur Tale or something. I didn't know Martin Short did a voice in that.
Well, I think they got everybody they could. But the next film...
Is that 93?
That's 93. In 94, he did one film, and that is Clifford.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Clifford did pretty well.
No.
It didn't? Okay, it didn't.
No. Well,
I thought it did.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay. Maybe I'm thinking
it made $7 million at the box office.
You know what? My bad. I'm thinking of Beethoven because both of them have Charles Grodin in them as the straight man.
Yeah, Beethoven did amazing.
Clifford
didn't. Really Clifford is a weird ass movie. I haven't seen it in a long time.
But you can see how I'd get that mixed up. Clifford is the name of the big red dog.
Yes.
And Beethoven.
I get it. I get it. And we could probably, for some reason, I've been thinking about Debbie Mazar all week. So that connects it too.
And she was in Clifford with Duchovny, right?
She was in Beethoven, I believe.
She's in Beethoven. Shit, with
Yeah.
Duchovny. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. This is
crazy.
well, it just the cobwebs in my head clearly, where these little bits of information are living that don't mean anything to anyone, and I'm wasting my life here with you. No, I'm kidding.
I plan to play these tapes in the old folks' home, sir.
Okay, so he does Clifford, which clearly was going to be a disaster because
I really the film was actually made in '90, and then
was it?
Yeah, but something about Orion Pictures or whatever. So yeah, it was never going to do anything. But I really wanted to see it because it was so freaking weird. Him playing a child.
And it was like the forced perspective, and he's
yeah.
with,
and just to do that straight for an entire movie is almost like poison for an audience. You know what I mean? Like it's just too high concept. And
it was a bad idea on paper.
It's a black comedy, which they can always go south.
And that was post Problem Child, right? Because that thing, I never understood how people that's become so beloved over the years. Because
you know what? That's what I want to say is like F Problem Child. I hate Problem Child.
Oh my God! Like, how is this something anybody wants to sit through? A shitty child just being shitty.
Yeah, and it got a sequel, and Clifford, which I think is just bizarre and wonderful at the same time, doesn't. Doesn't even do well. I don't understand the world.
So you've seen Clifford? I've never seen it, but you've seen it. It's worth seeing.
I don't think I've seen the whole thing. Pub Stumble. But
here we go. Let's do an episode called Brian's Pub Stumbles.
I have seen some
all
things,
the movies,
sir.
Love Story, The Way We Were.
Oh man, I can remember the perfect time. My friend and I came home from the pub. We decided to sit down, turn on the TV, and the credits for Frankenstein Conquers the World came on, and it was like, "Yep, throw the converter away. We're done.
My life is perfect.
Yes,
everything's coming together.
Yeah. I'm glad we came home early, friend.
Boy, did the planets line up tonight." So then he does Mars Attacks, right? 96.
No, he does Father Bride 2. He does something called The Pebble and the Penguin I've never heard of, and then he does Mars Attacks, which is a movie that I honestly think went over everybody's heads.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I don't think it's as good as it hoped to be, or maybe should have or could have been. But it almost feels like, because if you think about it, especially these days, I just read an interview with Tim Burton the other day that was the 30th anniversary of, or 35th, whatever it was, of Batman Returns.
Wow.
And he's so the gloves are off when it comes to Warner Brothers. Just the whole, how they treated him throughout that, Batman and the second one, and the black goo coming out of the Penguin's mouth, and whatever the faults of it are, they gave him such a hard time. They gave him carte blanche, and then gave him such a hard time with everything, and had to have a meeting with McDonald's and all these things. You almost get to the point where you think, when you're watching Mars Attacks, that like he just took their money and just went, I'm just going to do a piss take for 2 hours. This is just there's really no story to that movie. There's no
there's no real narrative to the
There's no narrative.
Like, it's like basing a movie on a board game, for God's sake. But I do kind of, I don't know. I liked it at the time. I think it came out in a bad. What was the other big space alien? Was that?
Well, it was the antithesis to Independence Day, really.
Oh, really was, and I hated Independence Day. So
yeah, I'd take Mars Attacks any day, and I saw it in the theater the night it opened, and it's got great stuff in it. It's got great visuals in it. It's completely bonkers.
I remember taking the escalator down from the theater and realizing, because sometimes things take a while to sink in with me, and turning to my wife at the time and saying, "Oh my God, the Martians were just jerks." They didn't. There's no shooting that dove had no meaning. and it just the whole thing just made me like laugh again because I just realized
it's got that dark Burton-esque kind of humor too, where it's kind of disturbing. Like the scene with Brosnan and Sarah Jessica Parker with their heads on the dogs or whatever, however they're that's kind of shocking. Like, these two beautiful people.
But it's also insanely silly.
It's insanely silly, but it's just I didn't expect it to go there. Or that was more of like maybe a kids-ish kind of thing or whatever this thing.
Those cards are definitely not
right.
Like they were for kids.
There's a great, who's the woman who's in it? The older woman? I can't think of her name, and I feel bad because she was a iconic 30s 40s actress. But she's their
grandma.
Yeah, but she's the spiritual the advisor to the two ghosts in Beetlejuice. And
she just recently passed away, I believe.
She's Sylvia something, I think.
Yeah,
and he's the kid from Witness is driving her around. He says something to her like, "You must have been really weird for you, huh? Like when trains showed up and things like that." And she turns to him and she's like, "How old do you think I am, kid?" It's a great little line. Just comes out of nowhere. She's barely involved, and then he says something like, "When trains were built," or something, or like the technology changed. She's like, "How old do you think I am?" It's very funny. And Tom Jones is in it, but Martin Short's very funny in it, and it's kind of a change of pace because it's kind of a sleazy sort of character. We hadn't really seen him do something like that character, I don't think, before. It does well, but it doesn't do that well. And of course, he's not the focal point.
No. In fact, he dies pretty early in it, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, he's the one that
brings in Lisa Marie,
picks up Lisa Marie with the. Also, when I used to go down, I only did it a few times, but they do the big Halloween parade in West Hollywood every year. What they still do, they block off 8 blocks of West Hollywood, and it was worth it just to go and be in the environment and everything. And some of these costumes that people did, and I'll never forget one. There was a woman who did that character from Mars Attacks.
Wow.
Beautifully. But the hoop skirt type thing down to the ground, she was clearly on roller skates, and she was just kind of gliding down the street and using her arms, the same way that Lisa, just barely tilting her head and gliding, down the street. It was amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, what does he do next? Does he do a TV show after that?
He does a movie called Jungle to Jungle. I believe that was a Tim Allen vehicle. Another, by the way, another freaking French film redone, I believe.
And another movie that you see, I remember seeing the trailer, being in the theater and just going, how has this happened? Like, how does this become a thing that seems to be that anybody thinks is going to work?
Yeah. He then gets a job playing in a movie called A Simple Wish. We should look at the television stuff too.
Oh, Simple Wish that's a fun little movie. That's got a following.
But again, he gets these impish characters,
Yeah.
He's a voice.
I think he's in the Merlin TV series too, isn't he? The Merlin.
Well, we'll go through TV after because that's interesting as well. Prince of Egypt again, voicing something called Mumford. Oh yeah.
Oh, Mumford again, a Lawrence Kasdan film.
Yeah.
Not a bad movie.
Teen comedy called Get Over It. Wow, Treasure Planet. Oh brother.
Is that
trying to find something? He does a lot of voice.
Is that Don Bluth? Treasure
Pardon
Planet?
Me?
Was that a Don Bluth?
I think so. Yeah.
I always felt bad.
No, it's Walt Disney. Sorry, that's
Walt Disney. Okay.
And then here's where we should get it to television because Jiminy Glick and La La Wood came out in 2004. So let's talk a little bit about some of his shows. And I just wanted to backtrack a little bit because he had a show called The Martin Short Show that ran for only, I think, a few episodes that I really liked. Him and Jan Hooks.
Was it a sketch thing?
It was like a sketch thing, but he was a sketch host in his home life, and but Jan Hooks played his wife, and it had Brian Doyle Murray, and I really liked the show, and then it ended really quick. So what they did, this is kind of funny, they did like a Saturday Night Live type special in the summer. I remember watching it. just for their canceled show, like it was an infomercial.
I don't think I remember this at all.
Really, eh?
What
It
year?
was good. 94.
Yeah, there was another show that was I gotta say early 90s that was a Christopher Guest show that was on, and Dave Thomas I think was in it too, and it was about a fictional duo like Laurel and Hardy, and the show was like a
I remember that show. Yeah, that show.
Do you remember the
like
name
92.
of it?
It was Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner, and was Dave Thomas too?
I don't think it was Dave Thomas. Oh, just give me. Rob Reiner was the host.
Yes,
and it was every week. It was supposed to be two old comedians. What was that show?
And then they recreate the 30s, movies that they did.
Yeah. Morton. I wanted to say Morton and Hayes. That was it.
Morton and Hayes, and it was
a Christopher Guest and Michael McKean, and it starred Kevin Pollak.
Kevin Pollak.
Yeah.
Oh, now I got to find that.
Yeah, say, fella, that kind of acting.
Yeah,
and
it was probably maybe 3 episodes or something.
6. That's all they got. Yeah.
Okay, I got to find that. I bet that's up on YouTube. But anyway, that's not Martin Short. I apologize.
Oh yeah, no, but that unlocked the door.
What did he do after?
Well, he actually had a talk show too called the Martin Short Show. I don't know where that aired. Syndicated. So he had that going on for him too, and then
we also just say, speaking of talk shows and Sammy Maudlin and all these things, one of the all-time best talk show guests to ever come on a show, Martin Short, because he's incredibly funny, and he knows just when to throw the jokes in. He knows just when to. He's never overbearing. He's never he doesn't wear out his welcome. He doesn't beat something to death. But he's a wonderful, wonderful guest on any show.
I agree. And his big one though would have to be Jiminy Glick after that.
Now, if I'm getting this timeline right, I'd done a show called Let's Bowl. It was a Comedy Central show. We went back to Minneapolis to do it. It was a bowling show, a real competition bowling show with 2 characters that, one was the straight guy, one was the goofball. And people would come on and compete. You're tired of your roommate doing whatever, that you come on, and if you win, you do this. And if you win this round, you get a car or something. So right around there, when we were doing the second season, maybe in 2001, 2002, I forget what it was. But I seem to recall getting a copy of this Jiminy Glick pilot, because I think it was a show that they did as a pilot for Comedy Central.
Yep.
And it somehow got into my hands, and the person that was like, everybody seems to hate this, but I think it's going to be good. And I watched it and went, it's going to be great. And then got it right back to him. It was like a VHS copy. And I thought it was wonderful because of him, because it's going to, the strength of him. And so it went to series, obviously, but I saw it before it went to series. And then you saw the behind the scenes stuff too, right? Wasn't it? He had the show, but you'd see some of the behind the scenes stuff too.
Yeah, you'd see his life, and I think Jan Hooks played his wife again.
Yeah,
and Michael McKean was on it. He's using his friends, but I thought his ability, because I believe all the interviews were kind of gotcha interviews where they didn't know what he was going to do, and he would just have these plays, these moves, and he was also really passive aggressive with them.
To the point again being uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I thought he just did such an amazing job as that character. And it's not always that fun to watch because he's so awful, but that is absolutely one of my favorite things he's ever done. And I've come to appreciate it more now because I'll watch Jiminy Glick clips on various, on YouTube and that sort of thing.
It's a wonderful character, absolutely. And he's brilliant in it. Did you ever see the film? Because the film is weird.
I've never seen the film, no.
Okay, I did, and it's weird. It's like a murder type thing, and he plays David Lynch.
Weird.
Yeah, he's like sitting there with a cigarette, and the hair, and he's doing a dead-on impression of David Lynch talking about the weirdness of Hollywood, and so that's got to be
You just reminded me of one of his greatest characters we didn't talk about on SCTV, which is Brock Linehan. Brock Linehan was this interviewer, this redheaded interviewer, and he would go, the great Catherine Deneuve, and he would know all this stuff about her. It was based on a friend of his who had a show here in Toronto called City Lights, named Brian Linehan. And Brian Linehan was a fastidious interviewer. He was very kind of, and I say to you, Harrison Ford, very prompt, but very proper, but he would get respect because, he knew his shit. Right. And, he would go, June in 1941, you were on the beach, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that's ringing a bell.
And the actor would go, I don't know how the hell you knew that. And that was, but so what Martin Short did was a flip on that. And he would be like, he would say something and they'd go, no, those facts are entirely wrong. And Brock Linehan, he had the same arrogance or the same energy as Brian Linehan. I wouldn't call Brian Linehan arrogant, but he was professional. But he was a failure. He was a flop, and there was the humor in that. And there is a scene on SCTV where Brock Linehan does a documentary. Brock Linehan does a documentary on him going home, and no one remembers him. And the woman he lost his virginity to doesn't remember him. And then the only person who remembers him in the whole thing is his gym coach. And it's John Candy as a priest, and he's like, and you fumbled, and your daddy said, I don't know what I did wrong. And then he begs Brock Linehan to dribble. And I tell you folks, seek this one out because it's so funny. It's so funny. You have to see it. I can't do it justice, but he dribbles and he dribbles like an infant. And John Candy's laughter is so genuine and so like it would stab you if it was you. You know what I mean? It's that
this is so ringing a bell.
Yeah, and literally it is possibly for me the funniest thing that ever came out of SCTV is that minute, because just Candy makes me want to like pee my pants laughing at how
back to SCTV though again. Yeah. One of the things that he would always do on talk shows is the impression of Katharine Hepburn. He did do an impression of her on the show, didn't he?
He did her on Saturday Night Live and SCTV, yeah.
He did SNL too, okay.
Yeah.
Because that's like dead on. And he's told the story before, I think on Carson probably, of like, did you ever do it for her? Or does she know, is she aware of it, or did you see it? He tells a great story about how he was either in a room with her or she knew about or something. But that's a terrific impression. Like, what a strange impression to do.
Especially for a man.
For a man.
Yeah, but he nails it.
Nails it.
So after that, he's done some interesting things. I think the two things that he's doing that are interesting is he did Schmigadoon, and then he's done this Only Murders in the Building, which I am not all that familiar with, but you seem to be.
Yeah, I am. Well, I was going to say he also did something. I'm going to get this wrong probably, but that first season of there was a show called Damages with Glenn Close.
Oh yeah, I remember that show.
And Rose Byrne. And I think I stayed with it for about 3 seasons, but I'll only say this: that first season of Damages was so well done, but it also was a kind of brilliant, because it starts at the end. And then you go backwards, but then you keep going back to a particular character in the present. As the story unfolds week to week, you keep going backwards and find out more information about this thing that happened. And it was just one of the few shows that clearly had it mapped out. Like they had a dry erase board and went, okay, here's the ending. Now let's go backwards, and it's all going to come together at the end. And it did a wonderful job at doing that instead of just hooking you week in, week out. The seasons afterwards never really, I don't think, matched up closely to what the first season was. But I think in the second or third season, maybe, William Hurt was the main big lead guest, and Martin Short played a lawyer,
That makes sense.
and he was terrific in it, but he played it completely straight. And I don't think I'd ever really seen him do something completely straight all throughout. And he was terrific in it. But Only Murders in the Building is great. It's very, it's kind of gentle, but it's got a dark kind of sense of humor to it. It's a little bit murder mystery kind of, where it does get a little weird with some of the twists and turns in it, but it doesn't matter because it's Steve Martin and Martin Short on screen together, and Martin Short absolutely steals the show. Man, he doesn't just steal every scene. He's just like, he's this, not washed up in the sense he doesn't have a dime to his name, but he was a Broadway producer. And so whatever the situation is, it's like, oh my God, when we did our off-Broadway thing, it's this constant run of gags about these insane adaptations that they did for stage, or a musical that didn't work, or somebody drowned in the Houdini musical or something. I mean, I'm making it up, but it's that kind of ongoing gag. And everything is sort of, in the theatrical kind of, he always sees everything in this way. And that, of course, they're also doing this murder podcast. And it's just a showcase for him to just be everything we kind of love about Martin Short. Steve Martin kind of, plays it a little closer to the vest, and he's a little more straight, but still very funny. And then Selena Gomez is great in it as a very different character, and for the three of them, for the unit, she's much younger and everything. Great characters that pop up in it, and some great little mysteries. But really, if anybody hasn't seen it or watched it, I would say you could watch it just for Martin Short, because he's so delightful in it, and he steals the show, just without even doing much.
That doesn't sound like a big surprise. I just wanted to talk about a couple of shows he did where he did exactly that, and that would be Arrested Development. I thought his character of Uncle Jack was kind of really broad but really funny.
I forgot he was even in that.
Yeah, throw me at him. That was just so bizarre.
Yeah,
I know that was written for him, and he's always great in that. And I liked him on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt as well, where he played kind of a plastic surgery doctor.
Okay, now that I haven't seen.
Oh, okay. Kimmy Schmidt's great.
That I watched the first 2 episodes, and it just wasn't my thing, and I never kind of went back to it. But
it gets better.
I'm glad you brought it up, because, and I need 4 seconds to figure the name. Okay, got it. There's a movie called Inherent Vice that is an adaptation of a book. The film is by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
It's got Joaquin Phoenix in the lead. What's his name? Josh Brolin. Oh God, who am I thinking?
Eric Roberts.
The woman who's Sam Waterston's daughter, whose name is escaping me right now, is in it. It is one of these movies that it came out and everyone just tore it to bits. And I didn't see it when it came out. I saw it, I think, on HBO or something. And there was something about it that I just went, that was weird. That's a weird flick, Then the next time I saw it, I started to kind of fall in love with it. And basically, it's Paul Thomas Anderson's sort of homage to The Long Goodbye, the Robert Altman, Philip Marlowe picture with Elliot Gould from the early 70s. And Joaquin Phoenix is this constantly stoned detective, dresses kind of like Serpico, beard, big sideburns, floppy hat. It takes place in like 1971 or 72. And there's a mystery involved. And it starts to build, and it does become like a Raymond Chandler-esque kind of mystery. But Martin Short shows up in it as a plastic surgeon that's constantly doing coke. And he's freaking hilarious. He's kind of sinister, but he's hilarious in it. And it's just like, I remember him when he first pops into the thing, I'm like, oh my God, he's in this too? And Josh Brolin's, they went to high school together. Joaquin Phoenix and Brolin went to high school together. Joaquin is clearly a burnout, but really bright, this character called Doc. And Brolin has become a cop, and so he's got the crew cut and the tight shirts and the tie, way too like he's like it's all bottled in. He wants to, you can tell he wants to get nuts, but he can't because he's so straight, and he's always given this Joaquin character shit. But it's worth seeing because it's a weird movie, and it started to take on another life where people are kind of now looking at it going, oh, this is actually a great Paul Thomas Anderson movie. It's
That's cool.
Not an original, but it's called Inherent Vice. It's worth checking out.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much our.
Is that it for Martin
Short? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that somebody wants me to talk about Santa Claus 3, but I won't, because I've seen it and I'm mad about that.
Okay, that's the third one for the list.
I have children. Have children. Children defense. I've also seen a grown-ups movie.
I honestly didn't know there was a Santa Claus 3.
Yeah.
I think I knew there was a second one.
I envy you.
I certainly didn't know that Martin Short was in it. But this is the other thing I'd say about him. And he's always had a boyish face.
Yeah.
From the time,
I was surprised to see he's 72.
He looks fantastic.
Yeah.
He's clearly older now, but he's got just as much vitality, and he looks, Steve Martin looks great too. I don't know if any of them have had work done.
Well, I don't know. Steve Martin looked 40 when he was 20.
Exactly.
So that's awesome.
But Martin Short still has that kind of, kind of impish, like he's up to something kind of grin and look to him. And that's what I thought when I saw the billboard, and I was thinking about the show, and I'm like, I love that he's still doing stuff, that we're still living in this world, that he's doing stuff, and he's still Martin Short. He's just terrific in what he does, and I think he's a
short on charm or talent.
I think he's a very, very naturally funny person as well. Yeah.
His brother's a writer too. I wanted to mention his brother was on SCTV as well, and he's
okay. So there you go.
Short.
I think he might have been a writer on the cartoon.
Could be.
And is Flaherty's brother a writer too? Paul Flaherty?
Paul Flaherty actually created the Martin Short Show.
Okay, I think there might be a connection there with those two on the writing.
Lousy Canadians.
On the writing of the cartoon as well. If anybody has a cartoon, you should, because it's wonderful.
Yeah, check that out.
And somebody find me the doll and buy it for me, please.
Yeah, and watch more SCTV. All right.
SCTV.
That's it for us this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you are a fan of us, why don't you check out our Facebook page or Facebook group, Pod Stallion. It should be easy to find. There's lots of folks in there, and we do odd things.
Yes. Do you want to mention anything about maybe a possible?
We were going to keep that quiet. Oh, you mean the toys?
Not the thing from Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, we're doing little mini in-action figures called polyester pals of our avatars, Satin Monster and Ron Space Pimp, and they should be out in October. I am making them in China thanks to my friends at White Elephant Toys.
And for the record, since it's not really in print anywhere, Brian is Satin Monster.
Yes.
And I am Ron Space Pimp.
That is correct.
We've never really gone public with that, but that is the truth.
No, but that actually everyone who's ever seen a Pod Stallions promotional piece has asked me, which one are you? And it's a very unusual, you see two creatures and you go, okay, I guess I'm that guy.
It just kind of worked. I remember years ago when we talked, it just kind of agreed instantly, like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
And now now it's public. It's no longer a mystery. Who was the walrus? The walrus was Paul.
That'll be a Collider video today.
Yeah, I hope so.
Oh, yeah.
If only.
Yeah. We're kind of a big deal,
Yeah, we're getting there. It's only taken 7 years.
That's right. We're like the Ramones. We'll inspire a lot of people, and eventually that will lead to money.
Yeah, I'm only doing this for the people after I'm dead.
Yeah,
really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you, everybody, for listening. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.